Not all protein sources were created equally. In fact, some protein sources contain things that can actively sabotage your body's efforts to grow and can cause disease as well. Smart kids who want their bodies to be germ-proof need to know the difference. First of all, what foods contain concentrated proteins? Plant foods that are concentrated in protein are nuts, seeds, and legumes like beans, lentils, and peas. Animal foods that are concentrated in protein are things like meat, eggs, milk, and milk products like cheese and yogurt. Proteins are like building blocks. The body puts them together to help you grow. I'm going to compare the different kinds of protein to different sets of Legos. Plant proteins are like a generic Lego set. They are all ready to be put together however you want them. Animal proteins are more like a specific Lego kit. They are already made up into a particular thing, like a helicopter. If you wanted to build a new Lego city and you had just these Legos, it would be easy to break apart and you could potentially use just about every piece. If you started with this set, however, it would be harder to take apart and you would end up with a lot of leftover pieces you couldn't use because their shape was just so specific for a helicopter. The same is true with foods. When you eat plants, they are easily broken down and you can use almost everything to build the new you. When you eat animals, the body has to work hard to break them down, and there are lots of leftover bits that you cannot use at all. These leftover bits form a residue in your body that must be burned off or cleaned out. If you are eating more cleansing foods than protein foods, then your body can keep ahead. But if you eat too much protein food and not enough cleansers, you can get a backup of residue that will collect in your intestines, bloodstream, and cells. The residue can slow you down and contribute to making you sick later on. Since plant proteins are so easy for the body to use and clean out, increasing the amount you're taking in makes a lot of sense. You can even level it up by soaking or sprouting them. When you soak or sprout plant proteins, the enzymes in them break them apart for you, making even less work for your body. They are also full of water and fiber, making them eliminate themselves. Whenever possible, choose sprouted plant proteins. If you decide to use animals for your protein, you need to be very smart about how you go about it. There are many animal foods that are just not worth it. Even high-quality animal foods need to be cleaned out and kept in balance by always consuming plenty of cleansers. Because not only does animal protein have residues, it also carries a certain amount of wastes that your body views as garbage that will also have to be cleaned out. When you eat an animal, you eat basically everything that the animal ate its whole lifetime. If the animal's food was sprayed with pesticides, they are concentrated into that animal's body. And every cell in an animal's body is always producing wastes, just like your cells. When you consume the animal, you consume all of those cellular wastes and then your body has to eliminate them. This puts an added strain on your liver and kidneys. In addition to that, animal foods have zero fiber in them, making them move very slowly through your intestines, causing potential clogging. In addition to that, there are some animal foods that come with a ton of extra garbage added to them. I call these garbage-loaded proteins. Remember, if you are backed up with extra garbage, it will drain you of energy, slow you down, and provide food for bacteria and viruses. High garbage proteins take you out of the game. But even worse than that, there are some proteins that have dangerous chemicals put in them that cause damage to your body and even start scary diseases like cancer. These are chemically altered proteins, and they should never be used. In order to understand if a protein food is helpful or harmful, here is a scale we will use. We will use it to score different protein foods so you know what to avoid and what to increase. Foods that score a 1 or a 2 are the very worst sources of protein. These foods actively damage the body when ingested or cause disease when they are eaten. Foods that score a 3 or a 4 are the foods that are so loaded with garbage that it would not matter how much cleansers you ate with them, they contain more than you can get rid of. Foods with a score of 4 or lower will be strictly avoided by smart kids. Foods that score a 5 or a 6 are things that can be cleaned out if you eat a lot of cleansers, but don't contain anything particularly helpful or building. Foods that score a 7 or an 8 are good beneficial foods that are easily cleaned out. In order to get a 9 or a 10, a food must have almost zero extra garbage and be the kind of food that cleans itself out. These are the very best kinds of foods. Smart kids who want to be germ-proof will keep their day-to-day selections at a 7 or above, and use foods with a score of 5 or 6 only on special occasions. Let's put that scale to work. We're going to start with nuts and seeds. Raw nuts and seeds are one of the most excellent sources of plant protein because they also contain a high level of fat, giving you everything your body needs to build great quality cells. Many nuts and seeds will also sprout when you soak them in water, breaking down proteins for immediate use. If they're organic, these get a 10 on our scale, 9 if they are not. Soaked nuts have all the fiber, water, and enzymes to issue themselves out of your body. They do all the work and your body gets all the benefit. Use them for snacks, in salads, or as nut milks, or blended up as sauces. Raw, unsoaked nuts and seeds come in at an 8. Without their own water, they are a little more work to digest, but still very beneficial in their protein source and with a high fat content. These are great in snacks and in salads, and also make terrific nut butters. Roasted nuts and seeds come in at a 6 on our scale. The roasting process alters the fats in the nuts, making cells that don't get rid of wastes easily. The body will try to replace them with raw fats as soon as it can. Some roasted nuts are okay, but choosing raw whenever they're available will ensure that you are building cells that get rid of wastes quickly and easily. Next, we will look at legumes, which includes beans, peas, lentils, and peanuts. But we will talk about peanuts and soybeans separately. If you just take a bean and cook it, those score a 7. They are good usable protein that can be broken down by your body and used for long-term muscle. Be sure to always have a good source of fat with all cooked legumes so that you don't become depleted. If your cooked beans are organic, then they get an 8 because the garbage load is less without any pesticides. If you take your legumes and soak them in water before cooking, they score a 9 because soaking breaks down the proteins for you and makes them much easier for the body to eliminate. I can show you many ways to turn these into terrific main dishes. If you sprout your legumes until they have tails and eat them raw, they score a perfect 10. And now for a special focus on peanuts, since they are such a favorite among legumes. Peanuts get their characteristic flavor from drying and roasting. The roasting process damages the fat in peanuts, and peanuts have a high fat content. This damaged fat builds damaged cells that don't get rid of their wastes easily. The other problem with roasted peanuts is that they are a very common allergen, in the top 5 of all foods. Many people have an allergic reaction to peanuts and then become addicted to the immune reaction they get when they eat it. If you're not allergic, then roasted peanuts come in at a 5 on our scale. If they are organic, they get a 6 for having less garbage load to eliminate. Of course, that score goes down if you add sugar and other fats to the peanut butter, but there is one type of peanut butter that is truly toxic. If a peanut butter has hydrogenated oil added, it is dangerous to your health. Hydrogenated oils cannot be broken down at all, and they lodge in your liver and your arteries. They have been made illegal in some states because of how they are causing artery clogging and contributing to heart attacks. Avoid this kind of oil and hence this kind of peanut butter always. So, peanut butter is not the best option for kids who want to build high-quality cells. If you're still determined to eat peanuts, there are some non-roasted options, but they do not taste like the roasted peanuts most of us are used to. If you travel to the deep south, they will boil fresh dug and not dried peanuts still in their shell. As a fresh legume that is not roasted, your body can use the proteins and the fats that are not as concentrated because they haven't been dried. These come in at a 7 or an 8 if organic. They look and taste almost identical to cooked pinto beans. You can buy raw peanuts, but warning, they do not taste like roasted. They taste more like raw peas or beans, and unless you roast or soak them, they have a toxin in them that makes them slightly poisonous. If you really love the raw bean flavor and are willing to go to the work of finding and then soaking them, they would be a 9 or a 10 if organic. But you can honestly get the same flavor and texture experience by just eating raw soaked pinto beans. And the last of the plant protein sources we will talk about is soybeans. Actual soybeans are a good natural food that is rich in high-quality plant protein. They get a 9 on our scale. The problem is with genetically modified soybeans. Approximately 95% of the soy in our country is this type. These soybeans have been tampered with on a genetic level to be resistant to certain pesticides. When these plants were chemically altered, they stopped behaving in the body like a normal natural food. They started causing allergic reactions and suppressing pituitary gland function, stunting kids' growth. The problem with genetically modified soy does not stop there. Commercial industry then takes the already toxic beans and refines them using chemical processes to alter them to make fake meats, fake dairy products, or oil-based sauces and dressings. Commercial industries get paid by the U.S. government to use soy, so many food companies have put it in their products. When they are chemically altered, they are viewed by our body as garbage, not food. Our bodies have to work very hard to eliminate them. Genetically modified soy gets a 2 on our scale because it actively damages your body when you consume it, and it has more garbage than you can ever hope to eliminate. Something that is gaining popularity right now is organic soybean oil and other organic soybean substitutes. Don't be fooled. Although they are starting with non-GMO beans, these products are still highly refined and processed. They are not actively damaging the body, but the processing makes them poor tools for building. They get a 6 on our scale. One other soy food we use occasionally is soy sauce. Most is made from GMO soy, but there are a few varieties of non-GMO or organic soy sauce that can be used as an okay condiment. Now let's talk about protein that comes from animals. We are going to use 2 symbols to help us. When you see this symbol, it indicates one of the better choices that can be kept in check by eating plenty of cleansers. When you see this symbol, it means that choice is super dangerous and should never be eaten. Let's start with eggs. Standard run-of-the-mill grocery store eggs come from crowded, caged chickens that eat GMO corn and soy, chemicals, and waste products. As a result, the eggs they produce are built from compromised protein strands, and they have a high garbage load. These score a 5 on our scale, and a smart kid would do well to avoid them. If you take it up one step and pay a little extra for cage-free eggs, they give these chickens better quality feed that is not GMO. They score a 6 for occasional use if nothing better is available. You can level it up slightly by going for organic because the garbage load is less, but again, these eggs would be best only if you cannot get something better. Now here's what makes the real difference in good quality eggs. The rooster. If chickens are kept with a rooster, he will fertilize the eggs. Fertilization changes the protein configuration in the egg, breaking it down for use, much like sprouting does for grain. The body can utilize these proteins more efficiently, so these eggs get a 7. And they get an 8 if the chickens are fed organic feed. If you think about it, without commercial farming, these would be the only kind of eggs available naturally. They are the very best kind of eggs for eating. Be sure to use twice the amount of cleansing foods to get rid of their natural residues. Fish are often considered one of the cleaner flesh foods. This would be true of fish that are caught in the wild, that have a natural diet. They carry a low load of wastes that are naturally occurring and can be eliminated when your diet has plenty of cleansing foods in it. A lot of fish you can buy in the store is not caught in the wild. It is grown on a fish farm. These fish are in crowded, waste-filled conditions and are fed commercial feed, which includes GMO corn, soy, and ground up other dead fish. That is a double waste load. The fish's body tries to deal with the extra wastes by packaging them in fat. The garbage load in this type of fish is high. Your body will have a significant amount of work to get rid of it, and therefore not much benefit. Now, if you take that toxic fish and bread it and deep fat fry it in soybean oil, you have a ton of garbage to eliminate. Let's look at poultry or edible birds. Wild birds, or organically raised birds, have a low garbage load, and they score an 8. There are some varieties of birds that have been fed good natural feed that is not necessarily organic, which get a 7. These meats have a low residue that can be cleaned out when plenty of cleansers are consumed. When chickens are raised on a commercial chicken farm, they are kept in crowded, waste-filled conditions and given commercial feed, which is mainly GMO corn and soy. The commercial feed includes concentrated pesticides and even other dead animals. Even though these products are labeled natural, this only refers to the fact that there was nothing added to them after butchering. Like farmed fish, the waste load is high, and it will take a lot of extra work for your body to eliminate. Naturally, if you bread it and deep fat fry it, the garbage load is going to be a lot higher. Let's pause here just for a minute to talk about the worst option. In the meat industry, there are dirty practices they use to make more money with their products. They take all the undesirable leftover parts and pieces, including things like snouts, organs, feet, and more, and grind them up to make what is called processed meat. The grinding process allows them to utilize things people would not normally eat, making more money out of what would have been disposed of as garbage. They use it to make hot dogs, sandwich slices, bacon, sausage, and much more. In order to make this mix seem more like normal meat, conditioners and fillers are added, then flavorings to cover up their undesirable taste. It is loaded with preservatives that keep it from spoiling as quickly. These preservatives are where we run into really dangerous territory. The chemical preservatives called nitrates or nitrites are known carcinogens. That is a big word that means it causes cancer when it touches human tissue. If you only learn one thing today, the most important thing is this: nitrate preserved processed meat is the worst kind of meat you can choose. Here are some examples of nitrate preserved processed meat. They are not only loaded with more garbage than you can eliminate, they damage your body as they pass through. These are chemically altered meats that are just not worth it. Just say no to processed meat. When you are trying to make a decision, here are some key words that can help you out. Even though these two meats sit side by side in the deli case, the one on the left is actually a chemically loaded 2 on the scale, while the one on the right comes in at a 6. What is the difference? The one on the right has no nitrates. They used celery juice instead. Doesn't that sound better? Turkey that is not organic still has a high garbage load, but if you're going to have some, be wise and choose the one without damaging nitrates. One more quick example. The bacon on the left is going to take days for your body to deal with the garbage load. Because there is so much, your body will likely store away the toxins somewhere else in your body because it's so overloaded. The chemical nitrates in this bacon will bond with your red blood cells, permanently damaging their ability to carry oxygen to your brain and other tissues. Your body will have to kill those red blood cells and then replace them. The bacon on the right is uncured bacon. This is a word that indicates that there are no nitrates or nitrites added to the meat. The word uncured can help you locate meat that doesn't damage your blood and your body. Now let's apply what we've learned to red meat. I'll bet you can start to guess the numbers. Wild meat and organic meat, I give an 8. You can clean out their small residue easily with the normal amount of good cleansers. Standard commercial beef from the grocery store, this is probably the kind of meat you'll get at your next barbecue. Well, this meat was fed GMO corn and soy, has a concentrated lifetime of pesticide residue, and commercial beef is also fed super toxic animal byproducts like other dead animals and their feces. Because of this, it gets a 5. It is a heavy load of garbage. If you decide to have some, eat a hefty load of extra cleansers to get this one through. Here's something you could do. Last of all, let's talk jerky. Jerky is famous for not going bad, even out of the fridge. Guess what they add to these to make them stay good so long? Did you guess nitrates? That is why nitrates are used so much. They keep meat from spoiling. These are loaded. Avoid these always. Look at labels. There are now many kinds of jerky that have no nitrates added. They get a 5. And if you upgrade to organic, they get an 8. The last meat we will address is pork. Pigs have a unique physical characteristic that you should know about. Pigs do not pass all their wastes from their body. Instead, their body will take wastes and store them in their fat and muscle. So while you get a certain amount of wastes in other meats, in pig meat you get an ultra high dose. It is so extreme that eating it will significantly raise your blood pressure within minutes. This is true even if the pig only eats organic feed. If the pork you eat is organic and for sure nitrate-free, you can eliminate the garbage in it, but it is very, very concentrated. If you choose it at all, do so very seldomly with tons of cleansers. Organic pork is a 5. Any non-organic pork is going to be way, way worse, and here is why. In addition to the pesticide-laden GMO corn and soy feed, with other dead animals ground into it that pigs eat, they have a filthy habit of eating their own and others' feces. This is not only super concentrating to the waste load, it makes it beyond what you can eliminate, and it also loads the meat with parasites. Pork has the highest live parasite count of any meat, and as such, it also has the highest chemical load of nitrates to preserve it. They have to pump gallons of nitrates into the conventional pork, or it would spoil before they even got a chance to sell it. Pork is the #1 ingredient in the worst of all foods, processed meat. These are the chemical soup that causes cancer and carries the extreme load of garbage. These get a 1 on our scale. The very worst foods that can be consumed. The bottom line here is pork is the worst of all meats, and it is the devil in processed meat. If you know you're going on a camp out and it will be the only choice available, take the time to throw some jerky in your pack because hot dogs are not worth it. I want to share with you a sad but true story. I had a kid who grew up not eating a lot of meat because we were trying to be as healthy as possible. When she was old enough to get a job, she found that she didn't have a lot of time to eat at home, but she discovered that she could get a hot dog from the gas station on the way to work for about $1. She thought of all meat as basically the same. She knew her mom said that meat was bad, so if she was going to have something bad, she figured it didn't really matter what it was. She didn't understand about the garbage and chemicals that go into hot dogs. She liked them and started getting one on the way home from work too. In about a month, she had eaten almost 50 hot dogs. She wasn't eating any cleansers, and her body was overwhelmed, storing up all the garbage and chemicals. They collected in the glands in her throat. The sides of her neck began to swell. Her system was loaded to the max with all that garbage. Some bacteria started to feed on the garbage. This is nature's plan for cleaning it out of her. because her body had no hope of doing so. There was a problem, though. This bacteria, as it digested all that pig waste, created gaseous wastes of its own. And because her body was so saturated with wastes in her intestines and her bloodstream, her body could not get rid of the gases. 2 pockets of gas-filled infection swelled on either side of her throat to where she could not breathe. We rushed her to the hospital. Luckily, they were able to help her breathe, though it took most of a week to clear up the infection. As she sat in that miserable hospital bed, she told us about her hot dog binge. I did not realize how little she knew about eating right. I thought since she grew up with it, she would just know. I realized that I needed to teach what the difference between meats was to her, and now I am teaching it to you. I hope you will understand after today the danger of processed meat. Let's look at milk next. We'll start with commercial dairy products, or the regular ones that can be bought in the store or at gas stations or restaurants. I'd like to compare these to a multi-car wreck. The problems just keep coming and building up in the body. Standard process for commercial milk cows is to start with a breed of cow that has a genetic mutation that makes the cows produce more milk. Unfortunately, this same genetic mutation alters the protein strands in the milk, making them impossible for the human body to break down. That is like a wreck in your body. These genetically mutated cows are then fed vast quantities of genetically modified feed, which contains corn and soy, in addition to many chemical additives and truly nasty things like other dead animals and the droppings of commercial chickens. The milk these cows produce is toxic. But it doesn't stop there. After this toxic milk is produced, it is cooked at high temperatures to kill all the germs in it, which also denatures the enzymes that help break it down. Then a routine dose of antibiotic drugs are pumped into the milk to stabilize it for shipping. Drugs that will still work in your body. Then the milk is processed into other things like yogurt or ice cream, and they add dyes, preservatives, stabilizers, conditioners, flavorings, and other chemicals. Eating commercial dairy is like a multiple car pileup in your system of garbage that is very hard to get rid of. It blocks up your whole body with garbage. People who consume it regularly are sick regularly. They catch every cold or flu bug that is going around, and they feel the worst as the bugs feed on all that garbage. Commercial dairy gets a 3 on our scale. Organic commercial dairy gets a 4 because it has less garbage added to it, but unfortunately, it has undergone a process called ultra-pasteurization or ultra-high temperatures. These break down the protein in the milk so thoroughly that all it does is rot inside you when you eat it. You're not getting any good building blocks from these products. If you want to level it up one, you can get raw dairy products, which, because their enzymes are intact, they will start to break themselves down. But since we are not baby animals, we will have a hard time breaking them down completely, and they still congest the body. So they only get a 5 or a 6 if organic. One exception to this is if you take milk that is raw and add rennet to it. Rennet comes from the lining of a calf's stomach and breaks down the protein in the milk. Raw cultured dairy is a 7 since it's the only dairy you have a chance of getting actual building protein from. Nut milk is one way to make a milk that is less toxic and is not congesting. Keep in mind, though, that commercial varieties are mostly water, many have added sugar, and these do not provide a significant amount of building protein. If you want a nut milk that will actually help you to build, soak nuts or seeds in water and blend them into a nut milk yourself. Last of all, let's look at cheese. Cheese that is made from commercial milk is going to have a whole load of things that come in milk just like we discussed. So it is also a 3. If that commercial milk has rennet added to it while it's raw, Then it will break down the proteins, much like sprouting, so that the body can have a chance of using them. So these get a 5. If it is organic but pasteurized, it gets a 6, and a 7 if it is raw and organic. Commercially made dairy-free fake cheese is a highly processed combination of refined palm and canola oils bound together with modified food starch. If that doesn't sound like real food, it's because it isn't. Fake cheese isn't a good food and provides 0 building protein. It gets a 5 because it can be eliminated if you use it, but it is a condiment, not a good source of protein. If you're up to making your own fake cheese from raw nuts and seasonings, like this almond parmesan, you can give it an 8, 9 if the nuts are sprouted and dried, and 10 if they're organic. Last, and scoring the very least, are the commercial fake cheeses. These are truly scary. They take the byproducts or unwanted waste from commercial milk processing and combine it with a lot of chemicals like stabilizers, fillers, thickeners, flavorings, and dyes. This chemical soup is known to cause kidney damage. It gets a 2. Avoid it like the plague. Just as a side note, and even though it is not cheese, this process that they do to the fake cheese is also the same way they make soft serve ice cream. It is not ice cream. It is the byproducts and chemical soup. It goes into a machine as a powdered chemical mix that they add water to and then freeze. It is also a 2. Wow, that was a ton of information. To help you retain it, you can try out this little experiment. The next time you're in the store, try to pick out different protein foods and remember their score. You could even write them down and then re-watch the 2 protein videos to see how you did. In the big picture, concentrated protein foods should take up about 1/4 of your intake. This will give you plenty for building. And if they are good quality proteins, then the cleansers you are eating should be able to keep up on taking out the residues that most protein sources leave behind. That's the end. I hope you learned a lot about making good choices that will keep you garbage-free and germ-proof.